Today I'm going to show you how you can build beautiful one-page websites with Card. Card is a website builder that is super simple to use. You can build landing pages with it, personal websites, portfolio pages, email opt-in pages, or even something like basic shopping websites and prototypes for your software business. Almost anything that you can think of that fits on a single page, you can build with Card. In this tutorial, we are going to build this really beautiful landing page together for an imaginary freelance web designer called Laura Hamilton. And I chose this example for the tutorial because it includes all of the important functionality and features that Card has to offer. So if you watch the tutorial and build this page alongside with me, then afterwards you will have all of the necessary skills to then go out and build your own custom websites with Card. So let's get started. The first step of the tutorial is to go to the Card website, and that is card.co. And by the way, that is not a typo. It is actually spelled with two R. So go to the card.co website, and here you can just click the login button, and then you press the sign up button. And here you can now enter your email address, enter your name, and choose a password. Once you've done that, you can click the sign up button, this turquoise sign up button down here. And then you are redirected to your dashboard. Here inside your dashboard, you have to click this button inside this red banner called Send Verification Mail. So click this button, and now a verification email has been sent to your email address. So open your email inbox, and inside of this verification email, there's a link, and you have to click on that link. And when you click on that link, this page will load up inside your Card account, and here you have to click verify account, so this turquoise button here. And once you've clicked that, now it loads a little bit, and then your registration is complete. It says done. You press OK, and now you're inside of your Card dashboard. To create a new website, you can just go up here to the top right and press this new site button. And when you click that, you can now choose from a lot of different beautifully and professionally designed templates that you can use as a starting point for your website. So you can choose any of them and then customize them to your needs. Or if you want to build a website from scratch, from the ground up, you can also use this blank canvas up here at the top left. And for this tutorial, I have prepared a custom starting template. You can access the starting template by going to the link miketutorial.com/card/template. I have made this template public and it's completely free to use. And if you go to that link, the starting template will automatically open inside your Card account. So let's do it now. It takes literally 5 seconds. Type in the link miketutorial.com/card/template. This is also the first link inside of the video description. And when you do that, as you can see, the page loads, and now this template is shown inside of your Card account. And in the next 20 to 30 minutes, we are going to turn this basic website with almost nothing on it into this really cool and completely finished website for the imaginary freelance web designer called Laura Hamilton. And I think it looks really nice, and you are going to learn a lot. So let's get started. So here we are inside of the Card edit mode. Here you can create and edit your website. Frankly, at this point, the page is rather empty. So if you want to add a new element to the page, you can just go up here to the toolbar and click the plus icon. And then you can select any of these 18 different elements. For example, if you want to add an image to the page, you can click Image. And now an image element has been added to the page. If you want to add a text element, you can click the plus again and choose the text element. And that is basically how you can add any of these 18 different element types to the page. I'm going to close this sidebar here. We will talk about this in a few moments. But now I want to show you how you can move elements around. To move elements around, you just click on the element, for example, this empty image element, and then you move it to the new position. And now the element has been repositioned. Let's do it again. Let's take this text element, Hold your mouse key, drag it to the new position, release the mouse key, and now it has been repositioned. Super simple stuff. If you want to change an element, you can just click on that element, and then the settings panel appears on the left side of the screen. This is where you can make all of the changes regarding the currently selected element. And the currently selected element is always the one with the turquoise border around it. This settings panel consists of several different settings tabs, each of which is responsible for a different type of settings. The first tab is the so-called element tab. Here you can change the content of an element, and usually you can also make some general settings. For example, here for this text element, I could change the content and type in my new text goes here. And then the image element is updated. Or in this case, I would actually want to type in your professional web designer, because that's what we want the subtitle to be. So that's how you can change an element. And the same holds true for any other element type. If I click the image, go to the first tab, then I can change the content of the image element by uploading an image. So let's do that. I'm going to choose an image. And then let's choose only this part of the image for the profile picture. And now the content of the image element has been changed. So that's what you can do with the first tab. Change the content and make some general settings. The second tab is the so-called Appearance tab, and it has this paintbrush icon. The Appearance tab is responsible for the style and the design of an element, so how should it look like? For example, if I click on this text element down here, go to the Appearance tab, I can change the size of that text, make it really large or make it rather small. I could make it bold or make it really thin. So lots of different settings that I can make, or I could change the color, turn this text into a blue text. And now we have a blue text. Or I can change the font family. So as you can see, lots of different style settings that you can make here. And obviously, right now I have selected a text element, so the settings that I find inside of the Appearance tab have something to do with how text looks like. If I go to the image element, which is a different element type, then inside of the Appearance tab, I will find settings that have something to do with how an image looks like and how an image is styled. So keep that in mind. The settings that you will find here inside of the Appearance tab always depend on the type of element that you have currently selected. Okay, the third tab inside of the settings panel is the so-called Animations tab. If you click on it, you can add really cool animations to an element. Usually this doesn't affect the functionality of an element, but it can make a website look so much more professional. So we are going to take a deeper look at this in a few minutes. And the last tab is the Advanced Settings tab. Here you can make some really advanced settings like adding custom code, custom HTML, custom JavaScript. If that is interesting to you, you can play around with this tab on your own. In this tutorial, we are not going to go into too much detail here. So these are your 4 settings tabs inside of the settings panel. Inside of the settings panel, you can also duplicate an element. So you click on the element and then you just go to the bottom left and click this duplicate icon, and now you have an exact copy on the page. If you want to delete an element, you just click on it and click the trash icon inside of the settings panel, and then the element disappears from the page. If at any point in time you should mess something up, or you make a mistake, or you do something wrong, don't worry, you can just go up here to the toolbar and click this undo button, and then your last action is reverted. So don't be afraid of making mistakes, you can always undo your last step. And the final thing that I want to show you about the settings panel is, first of all, let's delete this duplicated element. You can move this settings panel around. By default, it is on the left side, but sometimes you want to have it on the right side as well. And you can do that by just clicking this icon, this right arrow icon, and then your settings panel moves to the right. And then click the left icon to move it back again. You can also collapse this settings panel. So if you click the left arrow when the panel is on the left side, it will turn into this minimized version. And if you click any of these icons here, it will open up again to the expanded version. So let's keep going and turn this website into something really beautiful. Now I want to change the background of this page. And to do that, you can just click on the background and then the background panel opens up. Or because the background is one of the two base elements that every card page has, you cannot delete the background. You can click this More Actions button inside of the toolbar and then click Background. And then the background opens up. And let's move this to the left side again. And here you can change how the background should look like. Right now, the style is set to a simple color, and I can change the color of that background. Or I could change it to a gradient, change it to an image, or even a video or slideshow. If we look at the final version of the page, you can see we have this nice subtle gradient from orange to yellow. So that's what we are going to do. So I select the gradient background style. And for the gradient type, I choose linear. And now I can choose the first gradient color. You can just play around with this and choose your own color. And then I choose the second color, which is this kind of yellowish color. You can also choose your own color by using this color picker tool. And then the gradient has been added to the page. If I close the panel, you can see there's now this nice gradient from orange to yellow. One other option that you have for the background is the background pattern. And you can find the setting down here. And right now there is no background pattern, but I can set it to something like, for example, hexagons. And now, as you can see, I have a hexagon background pattern. So this is one of my favorite patterns, the hexagon pattern. However, for this site, we are going to use a different pattern called the triangle pattern. As you can see, there are lots and lots of patterns. You can play around with them on your own. Some of them are even animated. But in this case, I'm going to go with the triangles pattern. And as a color, I'm going to choose this one. So this is going to be my background color. And the size, let's change the size. I could also make it really small, but this is too small, I think. Let's set the size to 240, something like that. And then I click done. And now we have a really nice background with this subtle triangle pattern and the nice orange to yellow gradient. So the background is the first base element, and it's a base element because you can never delete the background. The second base element, if I click this More Actions icon here at the top right of the toolbar again, is the page element. So let's open this up. And you can think of the page element as a box inside of which all of your other content lives. So, for example, right now I've selected the page element, if I try to move this image outside of the page, you can see it doesn't work. All elements have to be inside of the page element. So it's a container for all of your other elements. And with that container, you can determine, for example, the width of the page. Right now it's at 42, but I can make it very wide or even almost full screen like lots of websites do, or I could make it really narrow if that's what you wanted. For now, I think I'm going to set it to something like 50. You could also change other things on the page. For example, you can move the page to the right, and now the content is positioned at the right. You could move it to the top. You could move it to the left. But usually I personally position it at the center. So that's the page element. You can never delete the page element or the background element because they are your two base elements. Okay, let's keep going. If we look at the final version of the website, here we have this nice subtitle, this nice orange subtitle. So let's do that. We have already created the element, and now I'm going to click on the element, go to the Appearance tab, and change the color of that element. So something like this, maybe. I'm going to look up the color that I used. Okay, it is this color code, but again, you can also play around with the color picker and choose your own color. Let's change the font because this font looks absolutely horrible for this website. So I'm going to go with one of my favorite fonts called Moodly. Here it is. Now we've changed that, and I think it looks really good, almost exactly the same as on the final version. These buttons right here, we will add them later. What we're going to do now is, first of all, this text here is a little too large for my taste. It's a little too prominent. So let's change this text and make it one step smaller. Yeah, this is a lot better. And let's add this footer section right here. So we're going to add these icons here at the bottom and these footer links. And to do that, first of all, as you can see, there's a divider on the page, which kind of it's very subtle and almost non-visible, but it kind of divides this first section from the second one. And to create this new footer section, I'm going to just duplicate this divider and move it down here. And now if we add a new element, I can just click add an element with the plus icon and choose icons. And now an icon element has been added to the page. So let's click on it, go to the element tab of the icon. Remember, inside of the element tab, you can change the content. And let's add a couple of icons here. The default icon is this t-shirt or apparel icon. But now you could go and change that icon, and there is literally an icon for almost anything that you can think of. So let's start with Instagram. Instagram, add the Instagram icon, and the URL here, you could obviously type in the link to the actual social media profile of that person, but because this is only an imaginary person, we're not going to do that. Next up, let's add, I don't know, maybe Twitter account, then add Pinterest, because this is a designer, this might be useful. And the last one is going to be, let's say, Facebook. Just a random selection of social media websites. Okay, so now as you can see, we have all of the icons on the page, but right now they don't look really good. They are very small. So let's click on them again, change the appearance, go to the Appearance tab, and then we can change the color of these icons and set it to white so they are a little more prominent. Let's also change the size of these icons by dragging the size slider to the right. Now this is obviously too big, but something like this looks good. And also change the style. So you have three different options. You can go with a default style where you can just see the icon. You can go with a solid style where you have a background, or you could go with an outline style where you only see the border of the icon and the icon itself. I'm going to go with solid. And then right now this looks really bad because the background is the same as the icon itself. And for the background color, I'm going to go with this color code. But again, you can choose your own colors. I think this is actually still a little too big, so let's make it smaller. Yeah, I think something like this looks good. And let's also change the shape. We're going to leave it at square, but we're going to change the corner rounding to make them round. If you drag it all the way to the right, you get the maximum roundness. And if you drag it to the left, you can achieve a more subtle effect. So something like this. Now we have really nice round corners. Let's also change the distance between the elements by dragging the spacing slider around. So if I move it all the way to the right, you can see there's lots of space between these icons. I will go with something like this maybe. I think this looks good. And now if we look at this, we have really nice icons inside of our footer that look really good and professional. Okay, the second footer element are these links. So let's go back to the template and add the links. So I click on the previous element below which I want to add the new element, go to the plus and add the links. And now a link element has been added to the page. Let's go to its element tab and add 2 more links. And the first link is just going to be a privacy link where people can read about the privacy policy of the website. Again, I leave it up to you to change the actual URL if somebody clicks on it. The second link is going to be the legal link. And the third link will be, let's say, I think it was the more info link. And now we have our 3 links. But they are way too big in my opinion. So let's go to the appearance tab. And first of all, change the size of these links to 1. And also, I don't like that they are underlined. And so let's change the style to plain and also set the color to white. I think this looks much better. Links also have a spacing setting. So if we go down here to spacing, we can move them really far apart or put them rather close together. I'm going to go with something like this. I think that looks good. And now we have a really cool footer section. So you can see the process of building out this website is just always the same. You add a new element to the page, and then you change the content of that element inside of the first tab. And then you change how the element looks like inside of the second tab. That's it. That's how you can build out a website with Card. The next thing that I want to add to this page is one of my favorite Card elements, and it's this form element. This form element is the magic element because with that, you can really make your website quite interactive. With this form element, it could be a simple contact form or an email opt-in form, or you could turn it into something really advanced like a payment form. So you can build really custom and sophisticated things with just this form element. So let's add, first of all, duplicate this divider again. And in between these 2 dividers, we will add the form element by clicking plus and then clicking the form element. Now you see there is a yellow lock symbol next to the form element. That means this is only available inside of the Pro plan. But this is no problem. We can just click on the lock symbol and start a free trial. This takes 5 seconds. You don't have to add any payment details, and it will automatically cancel itself if you don't do anything else. So you don't have to worry about receiving an unexpected bill if you don't want to use the premium version after these 7 days. So let's click on it and start the free trial. And as you can see, if you decide to go with the Pro plan, it is only $19 per year. Not per month, but per year. That is like $170 per month, which is, in my opinion, really good value for the money. So let's start the free trial. And starting the free trial is only 1 click. So click the button Start Free Trial. Now it loads. And the free trial is activated. And again, it will automatically end in 7 days. You don't have to do anything else if you don't want to keep using it. This will only be for this one form element. The next elements that we're going to build after this form element will be normal elements again that can even be accessed inside of the free version. So let's add the form element to the page. Now you can see we have a nice form element. Except it's not really nice right now because it looks rather dull in its default state. So let's change that by clicking on the form element and go to the first tab. Here we can decide which type of form it should be. So you can see right now we have selected that it should be a contact form, but we could turn this into a sign up form where people can sign up, and then you can select any of your favorite newsletter tool, or you could even turn this into a custom form. And with this custom form, you can do a lot of things. For example, you can send an email when somebody submits that form, but you can also send this to a URL. You can send this to some no-code tool. So you can do a lot of different stuff with that. Right now, we are going to go with the contact form. And if you want, you can add an email address to which the messages should be sent. In this case, I'm going to leave it at the default. If you don't add any email address, it will be sent to your account email that you signed up with. On completion, we want to display a message which says, "Thanks. We will get back to you soon." That's what we want our message to be. Now we can go to the second tab, the Fields tab. Here we can change all of the fields. So in this case, I want to type in your name, email address, and your message. And if you wanted, you could also add other fields like a company name or a phone number. But for this example, we're just going to go with the name, the email address, and the message. However, we're going to activate this require consent button here at the bottom so that people have to check this checkbox before they actually submit the form. And there they have to say that they accept the above information will be used to contact them. Okay, let's keep going. The third tab is the Buttons tab. And here we can change the label to something like send request. After all, this is a landing page for a web designer. So people should send requests here, not just random messages. And here, now this is the really cool part about the forms. Here you can decide what should happen when somebody clicks this button. So the default is just to submit the form, but you could also decide to require a payment. And this is really cool. You could say, okay, this form will only be submitted if somebody pays. So you connect your Stripe account, which is a payment provider. And then if somebody wants to submit the form, first of all, they have to pay. And only then, if a successful payment has been made, the form is submitted. So you can make some settings regarding that. I just wanted to show this to you, but for this website, we are going to go with a default contact form where people don't have to pay. Okay, so now we've made our relevant form settings. And let's go to the Appearance tab. Change the form width. So we want it to be full screen so that it spans across the entire page and not only something like 50% of it. And then I click the Fields tab. Here I can change the style of the fields. I'm going to go with a solid field style. And then you can change the background color. So you could make the background of these fields white. You could make it red, anything that you like. I'm going to go with something like this, maybe. Kind of a gray color. Yeah, I think that fits in really well. And then inside of the Fields tab, I will also change the height of these fields. So set the heights to something like this. That looks good. And I want to change the text of this checkbox or consent box to be white so that it's visible a little better and that people can see this and know that they have to activate the checkbox. Okay, let's keep going. Let's go to the Buttons tab inside of the Appearance tab. I think the button looks quite good in this state, but again, you could make any settings that you want here. You could increase the corner rounding, turn it into a round button. You could increase the height of that button, anything that you want. So let's actually do that. Let's actually make the button a little larger by increasing the height. I think something like this looks good. And let's also scroll down to the font setting where I want to change the font weight, so make it a little bit bold. Oh, that's maybe too much, but something like this. Yeah, I think semi-bold is good so that the button stands out a little more from the other form elements. One last thing I would like to do here is I click on the Form tab again inside of the Appearance tab, and then I want to increase the spacing between these elements. Maybe something like this, 1.7, that's too much. Yeah, I think 1.5 looks really good. And now, if I press Done, you can see we have a really nice and finished contact form. Super easy. Now let's add the heading of that contact form. So as you can see in the final version, it says Get in Touch. And in this case, I'm not going to add a completely new element, but I'm going to be lazy and I'm going to copy this title here, then drag the title down here above the contact form, and then change the size of that title to, I don't know, something like this, 3.125. Looks good. The last thing that I want to do here now is, as you can see, there's not that much space between this heading and the contact form. I'm glad that this happened because now I can show you another important setting that almost every element has, and that is the margin setting. So if I scroll down here inside of the Appearance tab, you can see this margin setting. And the margin setting basically determines how much space should there be between an element and its neighboring elements. So as you can see, if I move this slider all the way to the right, there's a lot of space between the element and its neighbors. If I move it all the way to the left, there is almost no space between the element and its neighbors. So let's go somewhere in between. I think something like this looks good. Let's see. Yes, I think that's a good space between the heading and the actual contact form. Now we have to click on this heading element, go to the element tab, and change the title, Get in Touch, and press Done again. And now this contact form section is completed. And I think it looks really good. Okay, I've just realized that I forgot to change or style this image element. As you can see in the final version, it is round and has this nice gray border around it. So let's actually do that. Click on the image element, click on the Appearance tab, and here it says Shape, and there you can change the shape from a rectangle to a circle. And now we have this circular image. Let's change the width a little bit. Right now it's rather large. Yeah, I think something like this looks good. 12.75. And let's add this gray border around it. So here it says border. And we can add a white border and make it transparent to make it appear gray. And now the border is directly at the image. So it's aligned with the image. But there's a setting called padding here. The padding setting basically determines how much space should there be between the border of an element and its content. So as you can see, if I move the padding setting all the way to the right, there is a lot of space between the border of the element and its content. If I move it all the way to the left, there is no space between the border and the actual content of the element. So let's again go with somewhere in the middle. Something like this looks good. 0.5. And now we have achieved the exact same effect as in the example website or the final version of the website. The next thing we are going to do now is to build out this pricing table here. And this is a more advanced element, and you're going to learn a lot here. Because up until now, if we go to the editor, up until now, we've only stacked elements on top of other elements. So elements on top of each other. That's a rather simple design. But here in this pricing table, we want to have two columns. So we want to have these elements next to each other. And to achieve that, first of all, I'm going to add a new divider to create this new section. And then we are going to add a new element to the page by clicking the plus icon again, and then clicking on container. And a container is basically just an element which contains other element. It is useful to group and organize elements, and it can also be used, if I go to the element tab of that container, it can also be used to add columns to the page. So here, if I choose type, instead of default, I choose columns, I have now added columns to that container. And I can now populate these columns with content and elements. And you could even change the space distribution of these columns. So let's say you could have one column with 75% and the other column with 25%. Or if you click add, you could have 3 columns. Or if you click add again, you could have up to 4 columns. But for the pricing table that we have here on the final version, we need 2 columns. So let's delete the other 2. And now we can just start putting elements inside of this container. Let's do that. First of all, let's add a text element, which says 1 hour consulting. So this is the first service that Laura Hamilton offers on this landing page. And then let's change the size of that element because that is way too large. Let's go with 1.125. Change the weight to maybe, semi-bold, I think looks good. And also, let's set the letter spacing back to 0 because it copied that from the headline. But for normal text, you don't want to have any change of letter spacing. And now we have this text which says 1 hour consulting. And we also have to change the font family because this is also copied from the headline. The headline font family is called Poppins, but for normal text like this, we want to go with Mooly again. So let's type in Mooly and then we can select it. And now we have Mooly, and I think we can actually turn this into a bold Mooly. Let's also change the color of that 1 hour consulting text. So I'm going to choose or paste in this kind of orange color. Okay, let's keep going. Let's add the pricing element to the page, which says, I think the first one says $99. Yes. So let's add that, $99. Go to the Appearance tab, change the color to white, change the font size to something like this. Weight, maybe even a little bigger. And I think that looks good. Let's keep going. Let's add another text element. And this text element should be the description right here. I've just used some filler text, but obviously for a real website, you would use some actual description of the service. I mean, at least if you want to sell the service. Let's add this description text and let's change the size of that text to 1.125, the weight to light, the line spacing to, that's too much. Let's go with 1.75. That looks good. Letter spacing 0. And let's also make it a little transparent. Something like this maybe to make it appear gray again. And now I think that looks really good. The last element that we have to add here into the pricing table is the buttons element. So let's click plus again, add the button element. And now we have this button. This already looks really good, the button element, except for the text. So let's change the text to book now. Again, the URL, you can deal with this yourself. And let's go to the Appearance tab. And let's see what font is selected here. Mooly, okay, that's what we want. And again, here you could change the style of that button if you wanted. You could turn it into an outline button, something like this. Or you could turn it into a solid button. You can change the background color. You can make it a round button. Lots of different settings that you can make. But I think this looks really good, so we're going to keep it like this. And now remember how about 2 or 3 minutes ago, I talked about a setting called margin. This setting will be quite relevant here again, because you can see there's a lot of space, unnecessary space between these items of the pricing table, and we don't want to have so much space in between them. So let's click the text element and let's reduce the margin. Remember, the margin is responsible for the space that is between an element and its neighbors. So let's reduce that space to the neighbors. And now nothing happens. The reason for that is the neighbors also have a margin setting. So let's go to the upper neighbor and also decrease the margin. Something like this looks good. Let's go to the text element. Decrease the margin. Something like this maybe. Yeah, I think that's how I like it. And now we have finished the first column of our pricing table. The second column will be a piece of cake because we can just copy the elements from the first column. So I click on them, click the copy icon inside of the settings panel, and then just move it to the right side. Let's do that for all of the elements. Copy and move, copy and move. Let's change this to 70.99 and change this to 7 hours consulting. And now we have the second pricing column. I think this looks really good. I like it. However, there's one more thing that we have to do because as you can see, if I close this sidebar panel, all of these elements on the top here, they have the same distance to the left side of the page. But this pricing table is not really well aligned. It has way more space between the border and the actual content. And remember, whenever there's space between the border and the content, the padding setting comes into play. And a container also has a padding setting. So let's click on the container, click on appearance, and here inside padding you can see if I move the vertical or the horizontal padding all the way to the right, there's a lot of space between the element and the border, and if I move it all the way to the left to 0, there is no space between the element and the border. And in this case, that's what we want. So let's also change the vertical padding to 0 as well. And now we have a nicely aligned pricing table. The really interesting thing now is that inside of the left column and inside of the right column, we have a couple of different elements, 4 elements exactly, that are styled in exactly the same way. So for example, this price element, which says $99, looks exactly the same way as this $7.99 price element. And in fact, we always want them to look the same. But what if you wanted to change the look of any of these elements? So if you want to change, for example, how the price looks like, you can go to price and change the size of it. But then you would always have to do it for both elements, which can be quite annoying. Right now, it's not that dramatic because we only have 2 elements that are the same. But let's say you have 10 or 20 elements that should always be the same, and you want to make a change, then you have to make that change for 20 elements, which can become quite annoying pretty fast. To solve that problem, Card has something called styles. So let's select this price element. And then inside of the appearance tab, next to the word appearance, there's this drop down menu, which says none at the moment. And when you click the drop down menu, you can add a new style to this element. So let's add a style. And we change the name of the style by clicking this pen icon. And let's call this the price. This is the price style. And now we go to the price inside of the right column and assign this price style to this element as well. And now, this is really cool. If we change any style settings of any of the elements that have this pricing style or price style, all of the element will change at the same time. So let's increase the size. And you can see, I just love this, you can see the size changes or the style changes for any of these elements. And that holds true for all of the style settings. So if I change the font family, then it changes for both of the elements. Let's undo this and let's follow good practice and add a style to all of these elements that are the same. Let's click the 1 hour consulting, add a new style. I call it price time. Price time. Let's go to the element on the right side and assign it. Let's do the same for this price description. Add a new style. We call it price description. And let's assign it to the right description. And finally, for the button as well, let's go to the Appearance tab, select the drop-down menu, add a new style, click this pen icon, and rename it price button. And now let's assign the price button style to the right button as well. And now, because of the styles, if we change any of the elements in the left side of the pricing table, the right side will also change. This is a really cool thing. Now, before we get into some other cool and advanced stuff like adding animations, mobile and responsive editing, and simulating subpages, I think it's a good time to save this website right now so that we don't lose our progress. To do that, you can just go up here to the right and click on the Publish this site button, this save icon. And when you click on it, you can choose a title for the website. So for the title, I will choose Laura Hamilton because that's the name of the designer. By the way, this person doesn't really exist. It is just an imaginary person. And let's, as a description, your professional web designer. And then we have a couple of different options. You can publish this to a card.co domain. This is for example, the final version. I've done that here. You can see it says finalmictutorial.card.co. This is what we can do here as well, and that is completely free. Or if you have the premium or pro account, you can actually publish it to a custom domain. So if that's interesting to you, you can also publish it to the custom domain. You have a couple of instructions here how that works. But for now, we will publish it to a card.co domain, and the domain name will be Laura Hamilton. And now it's checking, the name is available, and obviously for you, that name will no longer be available because it is now reserved for my website, so you have to go with something else. Then you can click Publish. Now it takes a few seconds, and now the page is published. It says, site successfully published to laurahamilton.card.co. Let's click View Site. The website opens up in a new tab, and that's how it looks like. Really nice. And now we have also saved our progress. The next thing that I would like to do is I would like to add animations, and animations are one of my favorite features in Card. What do I mean by animations? When I click on this image, for example, of Laura, I can go to the Animations tab and then set an animation called OnVisible. And the description is performed when this element first becomes visible or scrolls into view. That means when the website loads and this element is seen for the first time by the user, you can add an animation. Right now, the animation is set to none, but I'm going to go with fade right. And now if you want to see how the animation looks like, you can just click replay and the animation is played again. And you have lots of different types of animations. You have really crazy stuff like tilt right or flip forward, or I think the craziest one is something like slide right. It moves in from the side of the screen, but we are going to go with the fade right setting so that it fades in to the right. Intensity, I usually go with something a little more subtle, so something like this. I don't usually add a delay, but you can do that as well. And duration, 1 second is fine, I think. Then we can click Done. Add the same animation to the second element as well. So on visible, we want this to fade right. Duration 1 second. Intensity less. Delay 0. Let's also do that for the third element. Go to the Appearance tab. The Animations tab. Click on Visible, fade right. Duration 1 second, intensity less, and delay 0 seconds. Let's click Done and let's preview this. If you want to preview all of your animations, you can publish your page, obviously, and see how it looks like on the actual page, but you can also press this preview animations button here at the top right of the toolbar, and then you can preview the animations. Okay, I have taken a few moments and added animations to all of the elements on the page. You can do that for yourself, but I edited this out from the video because it would be rather boring and repetitive. But now let's click on the publish button again, publish the changes. Now it's publishing the changes with the animations. And if we click view site again, we can see how the animations looks like. And as you can see, if we scroll down the page step by step, our elements appear on the screen, which looks really nice and professional. I absolutely love these subtle animations. The next topic that I want to focus on is called mobile and responsive editing. As you may know, most of the internet traffic happens through a mobile phone these days. So it is not enough to just have a desktop version. We also need to have a version that is optimized for smartphones. And to do that, you can just go back to the website and click this switch to mobile view icon up here in the toolbar. And now we can see how the page looks like in mobile, and we can also edit the page. By default, Card optimizes the mobile view by itself. So as you can see, for most elements, it looks really good. However, for some elements, it can be a little off at times. So to manually adjust these elements, for example, this subtitle here is a little too large for my taste. You can just click on it to edit it and go to the Appearance tab. And then now that is important. Don't mess this up. You have to scroll all the way down to where it says Mobile, and then set the Mobile switch to Manual, and then you can make settings for how it should look like in Mobile View. If you make the settings up here at the top, you will destroy and break your initial desktop design. If you make the changes down here in the mobile section after switching it to manual, these changes will only affect the mobile view. So in this case, we change the size from auto, which auto optimizes the size for mobile, to a custom size that it's only on one line. Something like this looks good. Okay, next I would like to adjust how this pricing table looks like. For some reason, this text is really large here on mobile. So scroll down all the way inside of the Appearance tab of that element and change the size of that text to something like this inside of the mobile section. Again, it's really important whenever you make a mobile change that you don't do it up here in the desktop version. It has happened to me in the past, believe me. And then you just destroy your entire work that you've done before. However, most of the time you are lucky and just realize it soon enough to click on this undo button a couple of times, and then it's not that big of a deal. Let's keep going. I click on this 1 hour consulting section or text, scroll all the way down, mobile, set it to manual, and change the size to something reasonable, like this maybe. Go to the price, do the same thing, scroll all the way down, change the font to make it a little larger. I think 3 or 2.75 looks good. And the button is okay like this. Now let's also optimize the form down here. I mean, it looks good, but I think the font is a little too large. So let's click on the form, click on the Fields tab inside of the Appearance tab, scroll all the way down, important. Click on Mobile Manual and adjust the size of that font and change it to something. Yeah, I think like this, it looks really good. And let's also take a look at these buttons. I think these icons here look okay. The links as well. So here for this footer section, Card has done a really good job at automatically optimizing these for mobile view. And now we are finished. Now we have successfully created a mobile version of our website. Let's switch back to desktop view by clicking this desktop icon up at the top. And let's publish our page again by clicking Save and Publish Changes. We always want to publish and save so that we don't lose any of our progress. And then in this case, we don't have to preview it. We can just click OK. Okay, now we have done a lot of cool stuff with Card. I want to show you one final and really cool thing that you can do with Card websites right now. Remember how at the very beginning of this video, I told you that with Card, you can only create one-page websites. And that is technically true, but there is a way to simulate different pages. And to do that, we're going to add a little menu here. So I'm going to click this text element, and then I click the plus icon, click the buttons element, and now we're going to add 3 buttons here. First of all, let's set the style to none, because this is not the same style as this price button. So price none. Go to the buttons element tab, and let's add 2 other buttons. And the first button will say home. The second button should say about me. And the third button should say contact. Then let's change the style of these buttons again. In this case, we're going to go with something like this. I choose style outline to have these outlined buttons. Then let's decrease the font size a little bit. Something like that maybe. Set the weight to regular. Let's also change the height of these buttons so that they are a little smaller. And let's increase the thickness to 2. So the thickness setting is relevant for how thick this border of these buttons should be. And right now that's way too much, so change it to 2 again. And now we have this nice menu. The way to simulate subpages inside of Card is to add a new element that we haven't talked about yet, called a control element. So if I add a control element, in this case it says section 1, and drag this up here where it says get in touch. And now we're going to turn this control element into a contact page. Okay, let's click on this control element. And by the way, if this is confusing to you at the moment, just follow along. In 2 or 3 minutes, you're going to understand it. You have to see this to understand it. And then here at the top, you change the type to section break if that's not already selected. And then down here, you change the name to control. Control. And then you press done. And now what this says is everything that is below this control element, oh, I messed it up, not control, but contact. Everything that is below this contact element will be on its own simulated contact page. And to show you that, let's go up to this menu so that we can actually navigate between the different pages. Go to the element tab of the menu, click on contact, and change the URL to #contact, because this is what our simulated page, or section as it's called in Card, is called. And then for the home, we're going to choose hashtag. Home is just hashtag, so that's everything that is above this contact section. And then in a few moments, we will also add the About Me section. So let's already change that link to #about-me. Let's click Done. Let's publish the site. Then go to the website, view the site. And now if I load the page, you can see that the contact form has disappeared from the homepage. Why? Because we put the contact form inside of a simulated contact page with the #contact control element. And we can navigate to that simulated page by clicking this contact button, which we linked to the #contact page. So let's click on it. And as you can see, now we have the contact form on its own custom page. So really cool. So technically it is still its own on one page. this page navigation happens with JavaScript, but for the visitor of the website, it behaves like separate pages, which is really cool. However, right now, the problem is that on this contact page, we have this footer section. And when we go back to the home page, we have the header section, but not the footer section. Because right now the footer section is inside of the contact element, and this header section with the navigation is inside of the home element. And to change that, we can actually add a new element. So let's add a new control element. And this one is not going to be a section break. This is going to be a different type called a footer marker. And if we set a footer marker, we tell the editor that we want everything that is below this footer marker to be displayed on every simulated subpage. So if I click done, publish the changes again, and then go to the website, you can see the footer is now visible on the front page. And if I click contact, it is also visible on the contact page. Okay, right now the only thing that we have to do, I think we have to add a little bit of margin to that footer break, because as you can see on the website, this divider is now very close to the icons. So let's add a little bit of margin to that footer break, and now it looks a lot better. And we can add a second element called a header break. So if I click this header here, click the plus icon and add the control element, change the type to header marker. And now this works the same as the footer marker, just the opposite way. Everything above this header element will always be displayed on every page. So if we click done and publish the changes again, you can now view the site. And the header element is visible in the first section on the home page. And if I navigate to the contact page, it is now also visible here. And I can now navigate back and forth between the different pages. By the way, if you're asking yourself, why can we navigate to a home page that doesn't actually exist? So we've only created this hashtag contact page. Well, the home page is just the default page. So everything that is below the header end and the first element is the home page, so the default simulated page. And let's add a second element or second page here as well, because we have to add an About Me page as well. To do that, just click and create a new element, control element. The section break is correct. And the name we want this to be about, I think about-me is what we use for the button to navigate to it. So the name has to be the same. No, first of all, we have to move this one above the contact section. Then we add in or copy in a divider here as well, because every section has its own divider at the bottom. And then let's add a text element here. And let's change the content to the text element to some filler text. I've just copied some lorem ipsum text. Wait a minute, the divider should be at the bottom of the page. Now this looks better. And let's do the same thing that we have done throughout this entire tutorial. Go to the Appearance tab, click the color, and change the style of the element. And in this case, we want it to be slightly gray, something like this maybe. And also, I think the text is a little too large. So let's put this to 1.125. Click done, publish the changes. And now let's see how the final version of the website looks like. We have the home page, the animations are working. We can navigate to the About Me page. Now there's some nice About Me text. And we can navigate to the contact page where there is this contact form where people can get in touch with Laura Hamilton. Now there is one last thing that I want to show you, because in this tutorial or in a tutorial like this, I cannot talk about every single feature that Card has to offer because there are a lot of different features. The cool thing about Card is that it has a really great documentation. So if you click this More Actions icon up here at the top right and navigate to Documentation, Here, you have an excellent documentation for all of the elements, for all of the features, for all of the things that you can do. For example, if you want to accept payments with card, you can just type in payment, and then you have, for example, here you can read a small article about how you could set up a payment enabled form. And the thing that I really like about this documentation is that it's not bloated. You don't have a wall of text that you have to read, almost like a book or a huge article. But it always comes in the form of these step-by-step instructions that are super simple to follow. So you just, as a step one, select the form. Number two, you click the button tab. Then you require the payment, and so on and so forth. So this documentation is super simple to use, and that's how I myself learned to use Card. So definitely check out the documentation. And what you definitely should do as well right now is like this video, subscribe to this channel, because that's the end of the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment if you have any questions, and see you next time. Bye. Have a nice day.